Hello and welcome to video number 5. We're going to talk about freebies, and freebies are a great way to get people to sign up for your webinar. But there is a right way of doing it, and of course there is a wrong way of doing it, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So what do they get? Do they get bonuses, freebies, gifts on the webinar itself, and maybe like checklists or cheat sheets or something extra of value that relates to the webinar? So obviously you don't want to just give somebody a freebie for the sake of giving a freebie to getting them signed up. You always want to make sure that that freebie, whatever you're giving them, is actually related to the end desire or end result or whatever you're trying to sell inside of the webinar itself. So what is on the other side? Like I said earlier, transparency does wonders. Letting people know on the lead capture page if they're getting something, be transparent about it. What do they get exactly? And this allows people to see what they get if they fill in their email and name, and that's important. But one thing you want to make sure that you do with your freebies is they must be related. They must be related to the end desire. So if you're selling a piece of software, for example, you might want to give them maybe a short video course that shows them how to do something that is related to the webinar, so that you kind of prep them so that they know exactly, what they're going to be learning. So maybe the webinar is the next step. They need to watch the video, or maybe a short video, and on the webinar itself, you're going to show more details. So maybe the video could be something like what or why, why they should be doing this, what are they doing? And then the webinar itself, you're showing a little bit of the how to do it. And then maybe you're selling the actual piece of software that will speed the whole process up. So another freebie that you could give is a checklist or infographic. We recommend Piktochart if you're utilizing, creating infographics. You can create a lot of beautiful infographics using Piktochart. You can take a lot of content, written content, and turn it into a better looking piece of content by creating an infographic around it. You can also give homework that they can fill in before the webinar. So maybe before the webinar, you want everybody to have a chance to fill in maybe something that you're going to go over in the webinar itself. Or they fill something in so that when they attend the webinar, it's going to fulfill or complete something that was missing, or a question that was missing in that homework itself. So as far as freebies go, you definitely want to make sure that it is related and that it's not the major emphasis. You want, at the end of the day, that your webinar be the major emphasis, not your freebie, not your gift. All right. So that's just something to keep in mind, that the freebie only should complement the major emphasis, which is the webinar itself. Otherwise, you will actually get lower conversions on the webinar itself because people are signing up for the freebie. So we actually made a mistake a while back in trying to do that, and we found a lot of people signed up, and that was great. But as far as getting people to attend the webinar, that actually hurt us in the long run. So keep that in mind. Take our strategies, take our mistakes, and apply them to your own successes. So with that said, let's move on to video number 6. Hello and welcome to video number 6. We're going to talk about curiosity. So now that you understand how to kind of build a basic lead capture page for your webinar, let's talk about curiosity, because adding more curiosity will allow you to convert more prospects. So obviously, as you can see, these elements alone will not really help, but as a whole and as they combine with each other, they begin to help each other. So there are little things that you can add here and there that we've found that actually help conversions. Now, as far as the debate goes, should you do video or should you not do video? We found no video actually works better than video. Now, it depends on the product itself. If the product is something that you need to kind of show, or you need to show the end results in some way, like weight loss, for example, you need to show people like the before and after pictures, then video might be a good thing. Or you might want to just do a very, very short video. Like if you do video, it's got to be something like 3 minutes or less. Nothing more than that. Because what people are doing when they're looking through is they're scanning really, really quick. So we found that over time, the attention span has shortened. Like it used to be like 15 minutes. Now it's about 5 minutes or less. So even 5 minutes is still kind of long. So if you can do 2 minutes and do a video, you can test it out as long as your system allows you to do A/B split testing. For example, we use Leadpages, and with Leadpages, you can split test video or no video or with an image and see which one works the best, and then go with one that works the best, because obviously different audiences are going to work differently. From our testings, most of our things use no video. And we found by using video, it actually decreased the conversions because of that attention span. So obviously, like I said, test it out, see what happens, and go with that. Now, a very short video or even a very short, even a faded image can actually help. Like we found faded images work better than videos. And it depends on what you're selling, of course. So if you're selling some sort of secret or blueprint, you could take an image of the secret or blueprint and then fade it out so that it's sort of visible, but it's not really, they can't really make out what it actually says. So those things helped. And like I said, it's not a lot. It's just like one image, or one video, one very short video. Another thing is you can tell half the story. So you can talk about the benefits, you can talk about, relate to them. Maybe your guest has been in the position that they are in now, and, talk about that, but you don't want to give everything to the actual prospect at that given moment. You only want to give them a little bit so that it gets them to actually get on the actual webinar. So those are just little bit tidbits that, I wanted to go over, but little tweaks here and there can actually help boost your conversions by, a couple percentages or even more. So with that said, let's move on to video number 7, and we'll talk about scarcity, how to get people to take action. Welcome to video number 7. Let's talk about scarcity. The reason why we want to add elements to help people to take action and to sign up for the webinar is simply because a lot of people forget. Most of the time it's because they're busy and they think to themselves, and we have done that too. If you think about you and I, we've done this as well, but we've thought, okay, let's do that later. Then later comes and then we forget. And then suddenly a few weeks later, we remember it and we're like, whoa, wait a minute, I totally missed that out. So essentially what you're doing here is you're actually doing people a favor as well. So getting them to take action at the very moment is crucial. So this can be for a live webinar, it can be for an evergreen webinar. And what we found over the years is countdown timers work really well, especially for live webinars. So if you put a countdown timer that ends, let's say, for example, your webinar is on Wednesday, you might want to put the countdown timer to end on Tuesday so that you can get everybody signed up and ready to go. Now, an evergreen webinar, let's say, for example, that you have access to a webinar replay. So typically what we found is 48 hours, generally speaking, does well. 24 to 48 hours. The less, the better. Now, if you don't know how evergreen webinars work, basically the way they work is you specify a time, let's say 48 hours, and somebody comes to that page and they see 48 hours. Now, with a regular timer, and let's say you set it to end at a certain date, everybody's going to see that the countdown timer is ending on that specific date. Now, with an evergreen webinar, it is specific to each user. So if customer A comes in, they see 48 hours. Customer B comes in 5 days later, they see 48 hours. So it's customer specific. And of course, if customer A comes back after the 48 hours are passed, they may not see the webinar replay. So adding scarcity helps. And even adding a note that this page may be removed at any time works well as well. And purposely closing your webinar down for weeks or even months and then opening it up only temporarily for a couple days works really, really well from what we have found as well. So those are just a few things. As far as countdown timers, Countdown Monkey is a good countdown timer. And there are a lot of ones out there, but that's just one that we have tested and found works really well. So now let's talk about compliance in video number 8. Welcome to video number 8. This is compliance. And this is good to have, especially when it comes to paid ads, or even when you don't have paid ads. Some of these legal pages are good to have. So in other words, if you just set your compliance and your legal pages up, then you will be Google compliant and Facebook ad compliant. Now, one thing we found is Google and Facebook do not like it when you overemphasize or if you create some big claims inside of your landing page. So you want to keep it simple. You want to keep it straightforward. You want to keep it down to earth. So kind of the headline that I gave to you earlier, if you stick with that kind of format, generally speaking, your actual lead capture page will most likely be approved. Now, we can't guarantee that, and you always need to follow the Google and Facebook terms of service because it does change. But overall, if you stick with legal pages like the terms of service, the privacy policy, the earnings disclaimer, the FTC policies, and everything like that, then you will be good to go. Now, where do you find legal pages? This is a big question that a lot of people tend to ask. So be careful, as a warning, not to grab legal pages off of somebody else's site. People done that before and they've gotten in a lot of trouble. So the best way to do it is do it legal. Purchase your templates from a real attorney. And if you're doing online business, especially from internet marketing lawyers, there's several out there. You can Google it and you can, always do your due diligence. We've actually purchased some templates from a guy named Mike Young, and he is an internet marketing lawyer. He has templates that you can actually buy. So it's MikeYoungLaw.com, and he's great. He's got a lot of templates. He's on top of, the updates and what's happening as far as, the legalities go. So we've used them and we definitely recommend them. So as far as compliance goes, that's pretty much the answer to most of your questions about where you should find these legal pages. So once you get access to that, you can customize it to your company, upload them to your website, and then of course link them to your lead capture pages. So that way you're always safe than sorry. Hello and welcome back. Congratulations on reaching the end of this video course. This is video number 9, and we're going to talk about inside of the webinar funnel. After somebody actually signs up on your front page, what do you do after that when you're done with your live webinar and you've recorded it, you've rendered it, and now it's time to upload it as a webinar replay? What do you do at this point to set everything up so that you can run it automatically? So that's what I'm going to show in this particular video. So here's what the funnel looks like. It's not complex at all. You can add things to it to make it the experience a lot better if you want to, but you don't have to necessarily. So as you can see up at the top here, we have the registration page. So that's the initial page that everybody is going to see. And then of course, they're going to sign up for the live webinar. So what I suggest that you do is you have a live webinar. And if you're just getting started out, that's fine. But you want to have a live webinar because you want to be able to interact with people. And then I would recommend that you use either GoToWebinar, or if you don't want to pay that high-end monthly fee, then Webinar Geo, that's Webinar Geo, is another good option. But we've actually created a discount for Webinar Geo, and we'll talk about that at the end of the video. But for now, as you can see here, you have the live webinar. Once you've recorded that webinar and you want to start a evergreen webinar process, meaning you're constantly raking in and you're producing an automated money-making machine, that's the green part. So the green part here is the webinar replay page. So you're going to upload your webinar to YouTube or Vimeo. You're going to place it on a page, and then it's over here. And of course, this registrar page right here is going to turn into a webinar replay page. So everything that deals with like a live webinar wordage, it's going to change to watch this webinar replay or watch this webinar. So if you think about, you're just taking this page here and you're turning it into a webinar replay page, and then you've got it directly directed to a webinar replay page. And then of course you got it directed to an offer page. And that's pretty much it. It's not complex at all. Now, if you were to set up an evergreen ever webinar, for example, funnel, then you could have a webinar replay lead generation page here. And then you redirect them to, sign up for the webinar replay. So you could set things, for example, the EverWebinar or Webinar Geo is able to do this, but you can set things up so that they can view the webinar replay at a certain time, or they can view it immediately. And then you create a experience that feels like it's a live webinar. So you could add chat, you can add other things to it as well. And then of course, the nice thing about these types of systems like EverWebinar and Webinar Geo is you can set it up so that at a certain time during the actual webinar, when you actually talk about the offer, you can actually present the offer page. All right. So if you're not using Webinar Geo or EverWebinar, then the problem is everything is manual. So they see the offer right off the bat. They could get distracted by that, and then you could either lose sales. Now, some cases actually work better that way, and some cases work better the other way. So it really comes down to testing it out and seeing what actually works. So we've tested both ways and found that when something works best, we will generally stick with that. So that's why I say there's really no one size fits all solution. So that's what it comes down to. So like I said, EverWebinar is a solution, but that does cost a good amount of money. It's about over $1,000. And then Webinar Geo, as you can see here, it is a GoToWebinar alternative. Plus, it has the ability to run evergreen webinars. So it's essentially EverWebinar and GoToWebinar combined. So you can save thousands of dollars. Now, we were able to actually work out a deal with the vendor so you can get 40% off coupon. But in order to do that, you'll need to see the text file that comes along with this video course to get access to that coupon. All right. Well, thanks again for watching this video course, and congratulations again on finishing it, because most people don't actually watch all the way through. All right. So take this information and apply it and take action today.